We all know Ghetsis' master plan: manipulate his adopted son N to awaken the legendary dragons and then conquer the Unova region. But what's if I told you that ruling Unova was never actually the endgame? There's a trail of hard physical evidence hidden inside of multiple games that for some reason seem to connect Ghetsis as well as N to a mistake that Arceus made a very long time ago. To understand what I mean with all of this, we need to start at the very beginning, with a forgotten boy who was left behind in the woods. N's childhood was a rough one. He was abandoned in a forest by his original caretakers due to his frightening ability to speak to Pokemon. But this ability also gave him a fighting chance in the wild. Within this forest, he lived alongside a Darmanitan, a Woobat, and a Zorua, who each took care of the boy. It's strange though, isn't it? For N's ability to converse with Pokemon to be seen as frightening by his caretakers, it would mean that they themselves couldn't do the same, which leaves us with two options. Either A, N was somehow gifted this ability at random, something that has zero evidence and I frankly can't believe to be true, or B, those caretakers who abandoned him in these woods weren't actually his parents. But who were they then? Who were the parents that left N with nothing but these artifacts? Well, to find the answer to that, it might just be best to clear our heads by going on a little vacation, no? Welcome to the town of Rippling Waves, aka Andela Town. If we take this path off to the right, we can make our way across a bit of a hidden beach area. Through the use of surf and subsequently dive, we find ourselves above a sunken city, which is known as the Abyssal Ruins in our modern day time. The walls of this maze-like pyramid are inscribed with ancient text that I can't read. Without a cipher anyway. But where in the world would one acquire such a cipher, you might ask? Ghetsis? Duh. After we beat him in the sequels, Zinzalin, one of his sages, gives us research documents left behind by him, which in turn allow us to translate these scriptures. Zinzalin tells us more though. Apparently, the passages down here speak of a king that was able to talk to all living things. He also notes that this ability was likely passed down through his descendants. Is it a coincidence that N also has this ability? Well, with only this amount of evidence, yeah, it very well could be, but thankfully that's not all we have. This once flourishing civilization's castle is shaped like a pyramid. By following the instructions inscribed on these walls, we can make our way up to the 4 different floors, each telling us more and more about the king. One of the first inscriptions inside of these submerged ruins tells us that crimes lead to truth. Primes as in prime numbers. And do you know what special quality N's battle theme has? Well, if you start your count from the middle C, having it equal 1, the notes in the 4 ascending arpeggios at the start of N's battle theme correspond to the first 8 prime numbers: D4, E4, G4, B4, F5, A5, E6, and G6. But anyway, as we move further into the abyss, we learn more about the king. He's described to be a kind figure with that of a pure heart, one who was opposed to war and fought against hatred. The writing becomes even more direct on the 3rd floor, however. Here, we're told that the king saved all his people from the waves that, as we can evidently see, swallowed this ancient civilization whole. Moving on to the 4th and final floor, we reach a very small area whose texts are only partially translated. Among the censored symbols, there is one string that represents a name, the name of the Great King. While the symbols themselves look like gibberish, they reveal a specific linguistic pattern. In English and Italian, the name has 8 characters. In Japanese and Korean, it has 5. In Spanish, it has 7. The only one name in the entire Pokemon franchise that fits this character count across every single language is Harmonia. This explains why Ghetsis chose to use N. Ghetsis likely used his research of the Abyssal Ruins to track down the literal bloodline of the ancient king. By finding N and giving him, as well as himself, the surname Harmonia, Ghetsis granted Team Plasma's movement a sense of divine historical legitimacy. But that doesn't explain the set of artifacts found in these ruins. Why is it that this location is the only place in the entire Pokemon world to house each and every single one of Arceus' 16 plates. The plates that we know, due to the events that occurred in Legends of Arceus, are the required component needed to summon its avatar. Before I move on here, I'd like to introduce you to this video's sponsor, Lilith Games. The world changed forever when the P virus hit. Through this virus, beings known as Chitauri were first created. Each Chitauri is different due to this virus. It chooses to amplify the host's strongest trait to adapt to their surrounding environment. Take a look at this prime example. Goonbug used to be a tiny garden bug who just watched too many action movies, but when the P virus struck him, he decided to get incredibly jacked and developed a sort of hero complex. But Chitauri weren't the only ones that were infected by the virus. Humans were as well, and they didn't have a single trait that exemplifies them. So the virus made them have a single trait. It simplified them. And these are the opponents that you will fight in the upcoming game, Clash of Critters. Now let's get back to the video. An explanation for why these plates are here in the first place might just be found in alchemy. Remember Zinzlin? On top of what he already told us, he states the qualities of the King of the Abyss mirrors that of one of the twin heroes of Unova, the ones that originally commanded both Reshiram and Zekrom, or, well, their original form, which is fittingly called the original dragon. Why did I state that alchemy might be the solution to all this though? It's because the design inspirations for the legendaries of this region are heavily steeped in alchemical processes. The two contraries are a pair of dragons in alchemy named Sophic Mercury and Sophic Sulfur. They are commonly depicted as a white fluffy dragon with 2 wings and a black scaly dragon with 4 limbs. These depictions heavily informed the body designs of Reshiram and Zekrom. Sophic Mercury is described as passive and Sophic Sulfur as active, which could be a loose inspiration for the truth and ideals that Reshiram and Zekrom represent. The two contraries fight because they are opposites, yet at the same time, they complete each other. The process of fusing requires the presence of Sophic Salt to freeze the two contraries together and, well, ground them, which could have been the inspiration for Kyurem having the ice typing. So, how does the fact that these 3 dragons require alchemy to reconstruct themselves as a whole, well, 3-headed dragon, help this theory? In alchemy, the ultimate goal is the creation of the Philosopher's Stone. It's considered to be the magnum opus of all alchemical works, being able to create gold, cure any illness, and also create life. The creation process for such a powerful item is pretty convoluted, but I'll do my best to show you guys how to do so here. The first step is the balancing of 3 primary components, the Tria Prima. Mercury, the spirit, which in Pokemon's case is represented by Zekrom, Sulfur, the soul, represented by Reshiram, and Salt, the body, which is represented by Kyurem. Then you also need the universal solvent, the way to connect these 3 elements. This is known as the Prima Materia. In simple terms, Mercury, Sulfur, and Salt make up everything. However, for them to be worked on by an alchemist, they must be contained within the Prima Materia, an untainted substance sometimes referred to as the discarded thing. And that's the tricky part. Pokemon Black and White never had a thing that represented the Prima Materia, right? Well, not quite. But before I just give it away, maybe you can guess where I'm heading with this if I give you the 4 phases which the Prima Materia and Tria Prima need to go through in order to create the Philosopher's Stone. Phase 1 is Nigredo, where the ingredients are tainted, representing the ego of oneself dissolving and the substance turning black. Phase 2 is Albedo, where this sludge is then purified, turning white. Phase 3 is Citrinatus, where the matter then turns golden. Sometimes people skip this step, but really that's up to you. If you're following this, like in real life, don't do that actually, this isn't gonna work. Finally, Phase 4, Rubedo, where through high heat, the matter is turned into a deep red Philosopher's Stone. Is there something or someone who through Ghetsis' influence has gone through these 4 stages? Take a look at N, and let's compare what Ghetsis did to him to the phases that we just discussed. Phase 1, Nigredo. This is Ghetsis raising N in a locked-away castle. He takes the pure and uninformed child and subjects him to psychological putrefaction by isolating him and forcing him to only interact with abused, traumatized Pokemon. Ghetsis is breaking down N's worldview to strip away his humanity and mold him into a pliant catalyst. I mean, he literally objectifies N at every opportunity as well, even stating the following.
Shut your mouth! Don't talk like a person, you freak! No real person can talk to a Pokemon!
Phase 2. Albedo. One day, Ghetsis just lets N go, letting this hermited boy run free to learn about the world. N emerges from his isolation with a singular, pure vision, the absolute separation of Pokemon and humans. On top of that, he starts to seek out the components of the Tria Prima. Phase 3. Citrinitas. N successfully awakens his respective dragon from its light or darkstone. The raw material, N, has successfully bonded with a part of the Tria Prima. Phase 4. Rubedo. This was Ghetsis' ultimate goal, just never fully carried out. N, the prepared prima materia, would have been used to force Reshiram, Zekrom, and Kyurem together into the original dragon. Through this process, N would have likely needed to be, well, fully used up as a catalyst, which explains why Ghetsis' entire team is made to counter N's. I mean, even Ghetsis' Hydreigon alone has a move pool specifically designed to remove every single one of N's Pokemon. To Ghetsis, N wasn't a son or a king, he was a reagent to spend. A catalyst that once the Rubedo phase was complete and the original dragon was formed, was no longer required to exist. But this raises the ultimate question: why? If Ghetsis successfully used N to forge the original dragon anew, the perfect alchemical union of soul, spirit, and body, what was the endgame? You don't just create a primordial god dragon to sit on a throne in Unova, not with his ego. You do it because you need a key, and that key fits into a locked puzzle located thousands of miles away. The Sinjoh Ruins are outside of the range of the known map, and therefore are not part of the regions of either Kanto or Johto. It is unknown where exactly they are in relation to Sinnoh and Mount Coronet. The only hint to their location is the Pokegear's map of Johto pointing far north of Blackthorn City and northeast of the Lake of Rage. They can be visited by way of a mysterious entry point in the ruins of Alph created by the unknown and Arceus. As revealed by both Cynthia and a hiker staying in the nearby cabin, the Sinjoh Ruins are the remains of a temple created hundreds of years ago by two groups of humans, one who had come from Sinnoh and another who had hailed from Johto. Because of this, the ruins contain elements of both of these two temples as a sign to the blending of the two cultures. It is unknown what brought these two clans together to build a temple for Arceus, but this probably has to do with the underlying relationship between it and the unknown. But anyway, the mystery stage is found within these ruins, and what's obvious to see here is its similarity to the symbol that represents the Philosopher's Stone, but it's incomplete. In the classical magnum opus, the symbol for the Philosopher's Stone is a circle inside a triangle, inside a square, inside another circle. This is the squaring of the circle. It represents the fusion of the divine with the earthly, the square. The mystery stage has the circles, it has the triangle, but it's missing the square. Arceus, as a literal god, doesn't need a square. It creates from the divine realm, we know this. But Ghetsis is a man. For a human to hijack the power of creation, he needs the earthly anchor. He needs this square. And in alchemy, each corner of this square represents one of the four basic elements of matter: water, earth, air, and fire. Long ago, the four nations lived together in harmony. Then everything changed. Okay, that one was really bad. We have this exact same thing in modern day times as well. We just use more boring terms like solids, liquids, gas, and, well, plasma. This mantra of states lines up with the design philosophy behind the creation dragons. Dialga represents solids through its steel typing, Palkia represents liquids through its water typing, and Giratina represents gases through its ghost typing. The only one left is plasma, or energy if you refer back to the element of fire. Now, let's pull this all together, shall we? Remember earlier in the video when I brought up the Abyssal Ruins? How it's strangely the only place in the entire Pokemon world to house all 16 of Arceus' plates? And how Ghetsis meticulously claimed the ancient royal name of Harmonia for himself? Well, if you were paying close attention during that section, you might have noticed a very specific heavy drum beat thumping in the background. That wasn't just random background music, that was actually a blend of both Ghetsis' and Arceus' battle themes. Why? Because both of these tracks are completely unique in the franchise for using these massive, booming timpani drums not just as backing percussion, but as a driving piece of the main melody. It's a musical parallel that ties this mortal man to the literal god of the Pokemon universe. Listen to them side by side one more time. Cool, right? Both of these themes give me the chills, especially Ghetsis' theme as it starts to incorporate chanting halfway through. Ugh. But don't worry, we aren't just relying on musical theory here. There is hard physical evidence in the games that proves what he was truly up to. Fast forward to the end of the game, after Ghetsis' ultimate defeat, the Shadow Triad, his hyper-loyal retainers who answer to absolutely no one else, show up to hand the player some very peculiar parting gifts. The Adamant, Lustrous, and Griseous orbs. Why on earth would Ghetsis, a man obsessed with Unova's mythology, go out of his way to hoard the sacred artifacts tied to Sinnoh's creation trio, while also trying to forcefully reconstruct the original dragon? I think it's because the original dragon is the missing piece of this puzzle. Remember the states of matter that the creation trio represent? Solid, liquid, and gas. What's the fourth state of matter again? Plasma. Ghetsis didn't just name his syndicate team Plasma because it sounded intimidating. It was a literal statement of his intent. He already had his hands on the orbs for solids, Dialga, liquids, Palkia, and gases, Giratina. But to complete the earthly square on the mystery stage, he needed that fourth and final element: energy, fire, plasma. Thus, the original dragon, the ultimate fusion of truth ideals and the void that is Kyurem, reforged through the alchemical sacrifice of N, was never meant to just rule Unova. It was the missing earthly anchor required to complete the squared circle. Thank you to both Itzelder and Panda in Panga for supporting me by joining the channel as a member. Your extra support means a lot more than you'd think to me. Thank you both, I really appreciate it. And finally, I'd also like to thank Lilith Games one more time for sponsoring this video. Thanks for watching, everyone.